Hi, and welcome back to Book, Stage and Screen. We're very blessed to have the amazingly talented Steinar Ellingsen. Welcome, Steinar.
Wow, thank you for having me.
Now, I believe you've just jetted back in. Is that correct? Jetted back into the country?
Yeah. I was in Korea, South Korea, for the K-Web Fest last week. So, there's not so much jet lag because we're just an hour apart. But travel takes it out of you a bit. So.
And how did that go? How did the Koreans match up against the Australians in the Web Fest Olympics?
Well, we're good partners and good friends. So they're. I mean, the support that they've got around them is just absolutely amazing, and I think it's something that most web series festivals around the world could learn a few things from, because they're just. The frame around their festival is just absolutely amazing. It was held in this convention centre, and awards in a space that can seat 1,200 people.
Oh,
wow.
It's a different kind of world in a way, and they get lots of TV coverage, lots of media happening around it and stuff. So it's a beautiful festival.
Oh,
great for the creators, yeah.
And what's their creators? Are they comedy, the web series, or is there documentaries, sort of like our web festival here was? A great mix?
They refer to web series over there as web dramas. So, there's not, unfortunately, for someone like myself who comes from a journalistic background, there was probably a bit of a gap in the non-fiction section there in terms of the local content, but I mean they've got some incredible work over there, and a very different funding model than what we have here. It's mainly branded content, so big corporations putting money into storytelling as a new way to attract audiences, and that's sort of reflected, I think, in just really high production values on Korean web series.
That's interesting. We'll have to look them up and have a look at some of it.
Yeah. I guess they need to get some translators on board and start pumping them out to the outside of their own borders a bit more than what they do. But there's some really interesting work coming out of there.
Okay. Well, the Korean Film Festival is coming up, so we will probably giving a call out to that early in September, and you might want to pop along and have a look. And
we're going to get you to another Korean film festival, but one here in Melbourne.
Well, we went on a tour actually of the south of the country after the festival for 2 days, and went hiking in the mountains there. That was pretty amazing. But that was with a group of Korean filmmakers. So maybe some of their works will be screening here, actually.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's interesting. But tell us about your background, Steinar. You were a journalist, but you've moved into the web sphere, just sort of to move with the times, really. Is that? Tell us about that. Why you made that movement and.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Norway, so that's where I sort of did most of my work in newsrooms there and mainly for a regional newspaper. And I had this opportunity to do a PhD in Australia, and this new thing called the internet had started happening, and I think for me, as well as for most people who were working there, if we weren't intimidated by it, we were definitely a little bit confused by it, and what the potential of it all was.
So you grasped onto it and did the documentary?
Yeah. So I spent 10 weeks travelling around the Australian outback and did a 15-part web series about this journey, and. But it was funny because I wasn't actually sure what it was that I was making at the time. I was trying to work this out. What do people call this? Is it, web-based travel something? Is it an online documentary? Is it what do we call this stuff? And then And then, you know, I stumbled across the label web series, which was painfully obvious.
It's a series on a web. If only there was a way to define it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a kind of a facepalm moment, I suppose. But, you know, that just opened up this door into this amazing, very interesting new world where there were so many things going on and so much creative energy and yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. Once I found the magic key, it was great, you know.
It's always good once you get the magic key. And how did that magic key take you to the Melbourne Web Fest as well? How did you get to sort of be a festival director of the Melbourne Web Fest?
Oh, yeah, well, that was another one of those bleeding obvious kind of observations or experiences. Like my documentary series got accepted into a couple of festivals in the US.
Yeah, fantastic.
And so I went over there, and in particular I went to LA Web Fest, and you know, they were the first and the biggest web series festival in the world, and they were screening something like 200 series back then. This is in 2012.
Yeah.
And Australia was the third biggest country in the program in terms of how many series were screening in the program. And I met all these people, you know, from Australia and from Melbourne in LA that I didn't know about. And it was, you know, it was almost a bit embarrassing, really, that, you know, we're all over here and so far away from home, but we live 5 minutes from each other, you know, in Melbourne. We should do something so we can kind of, you know, get to know each other a bit better, share some experiences, maybe back home instead of having to travel, you know, to the other side of the world once a year to meet.
Yeah.
So, and also, you know, to bring this world to Australia as well, of course, was really important. So it was one of those things that, like, this is a no-brainer. It has to happen in Melbourne, and who's going to do it? I guess we'll have to do it ourselves. So yeah, that was really how it started, and, you know, we were the fourth festival in the world that was dedicated exclusively to web series when we announced, but now, you know, 4 or 5 years later, it's I've lost count. There's at least 40.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's been a quick boom, if you like.
Yeah. So you've seen, you know, plenty of web series. What's your sort of advice for people who are looking at making a web series?
Yeah, this is really funny. I was actually given a lecture yesterday on my way home from the airport about pitching web series to a group of filmmaking students, and you know, this is every panel, every Q&A with web series creators. That question comes up: what's your number one advice? And I think that too often people just default to this response and they say, "Oh, just do it. Just do it. Just go out there and do it." And, you know, I don't disagree with the sentiment in that, but I think that web series have come so far now that there's so much information out there. There's so many series out there that you can look at and learn from, and there are so many anecdotal pieces of evidence and advice out there from people who have just done it. And I think if you're thinking about doing it now, you should definitely do it. But I think you need to watch a ton of web series first, and you know, read all those things where people go, you know, how they might have shot their first series without a budget. You know, what what did they learn from that? How do you, if you don't have a budget, how do you run a professional operation and all that sort of stuff, and how can you turn in-kind favors into something that's leveraged against maybe getting, you know, some free food for your crew, or, you know, there's all these things that so many people have tried and failed and had to overcome as part of their production. And it's about making your own life easier when you decide, I'm just going to do it. So watch lots of web series, read lots about web series, and then just do it.
Definitely. Well,
I think that's my, the number one advice.
Because I do notice that some people have they've come up with a traditional sitcom, say for example, a half-hour TV show that they've perhaps even pitched at networks and been rejected, so they decide to turn it into a web series. But it turns out to be sort of 20 odd minutes. What are your thoughts on sort of the ideal length of time for a web series episode?
Actually, I'm part of a group of academics because I moonlight as an academic when I'm not doing the festival. And this is actually some of the things that we're looking at. And we found this beautiful man in Germany, a French guy living in Germany, who's been collecting all this incredible data about web series from 96 to 2014. And he's catalogued and actually started churning these statistics around. And what he's found, I shouldn't actually take any credit on this, is that on average over the years between then and now, the duration of episodes in the web has actually stayed relatively stable.
Okay.
It's sort of gone from the average episode, gone from 7 to 8 minutes. The very short ones are in decline, so the 1 minute to 3 minute episodes are actually declining a little bit. But more often than not, about 90% of web series are 12 minutes or shorter per episode.
Yeah.
So I think, I realise that's happening, that, I got knocked back, so I'm going to turn it into a web series. But I think in that process, you need to start thinking about how that's going to affect your story.
Yeah, and it's a different medium.
Exactly.
You're not transferring just a funny sitcom to a shorter web series. You've really got to think about
3 bits and upload it as 3 different files. So it doesn't really necessarily work.
And for most web series, your audiences, you're going to find them through social media, so Facebook and Instagram and things. And I think for a lot of people, I know with me as well, when it comes up, the first thing I do is look at how long it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this 8 minutes.
You're like, oh my God, that's right. It's almost like you're asking for $100. Oh, 8 minutes.
Yes.
My time? That is preposterous,
Although, having said that, we do enjoy comedians in cars getting coffee, which sort of tips it up closer to 20 minutes than anything else, really.
But you already kind of know the investment you've got because you know the comedian, usually.
Yeah,
so
I think that's really often part of it. If you're someone who's trying to make a name for yourself, and in this day and age of autoplay in your Facebook newsfeed and those sort of things, you got to think about that when you're writing. That I've got about 5 seconds here to capture my audience, and then they might just look at the first gag while they're scrolling, and if they like it, they'll continue to watch, but they'll still keep an eye on the time.
Yeah.
But if you can sort of get people in that way, and you've got 20-minute stories and they're really good, it could work. But it helps to have some star power, like a Seinfeld attached to it, or a Lisa Kudrow or someone like that. That's. But most of us don't have that, unfortunately.
No. And what about Vines? Because Vines are down around 6 seconds, and I know Instagram has a bit of a video thing as well. But YouTube is the main carrier for web series.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, I guess I'm somewhat ambivalent towards Vines and towards Instagram. I mean, I love them as platforms, but as a platform for series-based storytelling, I'm not totally sold on how successful they are. We actually got a Vine series submitted to the festival for this year.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting, but when you go to watch it, Vines play on a loop. So if you got 20 episodes and it's sort of, like an old vinyl with a dent in it that just, I wanted the rest of the song, but it keeps skipping back to the first verse, and that's a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
I think, as a vehicle for telling serial stories. But having said that, we did actually have an Instagram series in last year's festival.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting to see what people are doing with the different platforms and how they are experimenting with it. So this Instagram series but it was really cleverly written, I think, which was what really captured me. It was without dialogue. It was a series based on monologues, but it had a really cool story arc about an artist who selling fakes on the street of New York, passing them off as his own. Then he got arrested and he got stuck in jail, and it was always sort of pretty cool piece of storytelling, actually. It was called Artistically Challenged for anyone who wants to check it out.
We might look that one up.
But, in hindsight, I actually preferred to just sit and watch it on YouTube in a way. Because then I didn't, again, it was the same problem with the loop.
Yeah. But I guess that web series and web festivals, it's probably where the most creative things are happening, because there's no real rules as such. Everyone's sort of pushing the boundaries in what they're doing. And I mean, I know the festival's either going to take you or not, but it sounds like if people are doing Instagram and series and things like that, the people are actually thinking outside the circle a bit more.
Yeah, and, that's what's so exciting about it. And I guess for me, I feel in a really privileged position because people are sending me all these creative things that they're doing and us, the festival to look at. And I think, the best kind of mix of creativity and marketing, in a way, is what makes for a successful web series, I think.
And what's your favourites? Because you've seen them all. Well,
the majority.
I won't say the all, because that's probably impossible. But
I think that is impossible.
But you have seen a substantial amount. What are the standouts that are piquing your interest?
At the moment, I think I'm still sort of floating a bit on the festival from that we just had about a month ago. Yeah. And, I think Australia's got some amazing standout work.
The catering show is...
The catering show is obviously incredible. They also won Best Australian Comedy at the festival. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, things like The Wizards of Oz, which is just mind-blowing what those guys pulled off with a limited budget. I think, it looks like $1 million, and I know they didn't have a budget that was anywhere near that.
Yeah.
And there's a drama from Perth, which is absolutely sensational, called Greenfield, which I'm thoroughly in love with.
Yeah.
And the Justice League.
Okay.
Which is a comedy from Sydney about a bunch of DC superheroes who are living in a share house in Sydney. And it's so much better than Batman versus Superman. I actually tried to watch that on the plane going to Korea, and because I'd heard so many bad things about it, and usually that when your expectations are so low, you usually find something positive about it, but I couldn't do it with that film. So, if you're thinking about seeing it, you should check out the Justice League instead.
Yeah.
It's so much better. But, and these New South Wales, also massive favourite of mine. It's a mockumentary about a punk band from Sydney.
Oh, okay, I think I've seen them. Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
And so what can we expect? Submissions are already open for next year's festival. What can we expect? I mean, this year you had Pitch Fest, which we've talked to Jenny Winter, who won it with Viking Mama. She sounds like she's going to have a ball over in Marseille, and we can expect great things from that series. But is there new, have you come up yet? I know you've just come up from air for air with the last one, but what can we expect with the next festival?
Well, it's going to be our 5th anniversary, so we have to do something. You know, at least we need to have another festival so we can celebrate our anniversary. But yeah, we'll be moving house, so to speak, from away from Fed Square. We'll be moving to the State Library in Victoria.
Oh, great! Yep.
And it was one of those things when we were thinking about it that, you know, nothing says party like a thing at the library. But when you come inside there, it's such a fantastic venue, and the screening venue is going to be so much better. It'll be a different dynamic for the more formal events, which I think is going to suit our community much better. And so that's we're really excited about that. We've opened up a student category for the awards.
Right.
Because we recognise that there's more and more universities and film schools dabbling in web series.
Yep.
We are hoping to continue the pitching competition. Obviously, that's something that we're aiming for, and in the lead up to the next year, we're going into production of some Melbourne Web Fest originals.
Great.
So I can't really say too much about it, but they'll
You've said too much already.
Yeah, I've said too much already. It's become a real thing now. No. But we are working with a bunch of students actually from La Trobe University.
Yep.
To crew this, and then we're currently trying to lock in some talent from that are alumni of the festival to do collaborative pieces with us.
Beautiful.
Basically. So it'll be a fun little exercise. It'll be short comedies.
Yep.
And we're also starting a podcast.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Yeah, that's they're the sort of the things that we're doing. Other than that, we're writing grants applications, which are
always fun.
Yes. It is. It's necessary.
Yes,
you know.
That's the word.
Yeah. So you know, excuse me. We've got obviously a lot of ideas and wants and and things we would love to do because of the 5th anniversary and because the festival is growing. But yeah, we'll save the announcements until we know whether or not we've got money to fund them.
Beautiful.
You heard it here first on Win FM Book Stage and Screen.
There could be a lot of things happening.
There could be announcements in the future.
Grants.
Yep.
We also take commercial sponsorships. If you've got some listeners out there who are wanting to donate, you know, we're a tax deductible kind of entity. So.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a great way to put your money to work.
Yes, exactly. Well, we're big fans here. We went to the festival and it was fantastic and a great community. If you really wanted to sort of get in on the ground floor or just expand your network, it was really good and intimate, and you could really just walk up and talk to anybody there. It was very open.
Yeah.
So we encourage anybody to go. And also if you've got an idea to get, because now submissions are open, but they're open for quite a long time. This is just early submissions. So sort of get your kit into gear and get working on it, and you can submit it in the next a couple of months, isn't it, I would say?
Yep.
6 months or so?
Early bird's going till the end of November, so that's you know, there's still time to get in at the cheapest rate. So, but you know, don't rush your hands for too long.
Yes. No, well, thanks. We've run out of time to talk to you about all your other wonderful things, your executive editing and your lecturing about journalism. So we'll have to have you back to talk all about that.
Anytime.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, Steinar, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.